Hi guys, welcome to another video. Today we're going to be looking at some new models that have entered the collection. These are all off Facebook and eBay. You can probably tell I'm no longer on the dining room in my house. I've moved to the garage just to free up the dining room to be used as a dining room table. It was being basically a storage for all the cars I was trying to sell, making videos, building model kits, because essentially I just dumped loads of stuff in here. I've had a bit of a tidy up, which has given me some room to start making some of the models again. You can see there's some Airfix kits in this tub over here that I've started and probably will never finish because I think I've lost interest in those particular aircraft. They're now sort of spares and repair. I've got various other kits that I've built and stuff. Maybe I'll do a video on that one day. But anyway, let's have a look at the new cars that come into the collection. First up, this one cost me in total with postage off eBay £8.72, and it's another Quartzo Matra. These are great models. We've got a few of them now in the collection. This one's complete, it's not missing its mirror. This is a high wing car, so this will be earlier in the year before the high wings were banned, but after the MS10, so this is an MS80, and same as the other Quartzo. The MS10 they started the year with before replacing it with the MS80. So another Matra into the collection. Again, this is Jean-Pierre Beltoire's car, so we've got another Jean-Pierre car in the collection. We've got a few of his cars now. Again, really fantastic model by Quartzo. Got the Cosworth DFV in the back there, because I think Matra learned that the Matra V12 wasn't adopting to Formula 1 particularly well, so they followed Ken Tyrrell into using the Cosworth DFVs. So anyone unfamiliar with how the Matra team worked and when they first came to Formula 1, the French team were running the Matra V12s, whilst Tyrrell's ran team for Jackie Stewart were running Cosworth DFVs. So yeah, really cool to have this one in the collection. Quite happy. Another Matra, another Quartzo. As you can see, fantastic detail all around. Sometimes these are twisted, which you can see this one's a little bit bent. Don't try and move them. They're really brittle. It will break. You'll just have to accept that they are slightly twisted and out of shape. But in general, I would say these are better than the Panini models that you can get. So if you can find a Quartzo version of a car that Panini have done, get the Quartzo. That's what I would say. Moving on to 1971, we have a Graham Hill car in the form of the Brabham BT34. Not a particularly successful car, unfortunately. Graham Hill would actually leave the team. Obviously, Brabham had lots of success, but the early 70s were not in their favour. They weren't able to keep up with things like the Lotus 72 and the Tyrrell cars that came out through the early 70s. In this case, Graham Hill, I don't think he had any notable success. The other driver in the team, which I think, and I could be very wrong here, would probably have been Reutemann or Fittipaldi, not Emerson. Wilson Fittipaldi, I believe, may have been driving the other Brabhams. I'd have to double check it. This model's a bit weird. Nobody can seem to link this exact layout of logos to a particular race, and it doesn't say so on the box. I've seen people that have modified it to look like the Paul Ricard car. So I can't tell you what race this one's from. Likewise, I think this one's from the French Grand Prix. I'll have to double check that on the box. I believe it's the French Grand Prix. This one, unknown race. But either way, a really nicely modelled car. If anything, the DFV in the back, out of all the Panini cars that I've had, this one seems to be the most simple. I've got three other Cosworth DFV engine cars next to me. Actually, to be fair, I think this one's quite similar to the next two that are coming up. So maybe this is the same block recast for all of them, although I can see differences. But it is interesting how they all seem to be slightly different lengths, considering they're all 1/43 and Cosworth DFVs. I'll try and show you that in a minute. But yeah, not a particularly successful car, nicknamed the Lobster, because of the slightly odd way of doing the front aero. The radiators spread out to the side, which would be a theme that would carry on with a lot of Brabhams through the 70s. But yeah, a cool model to have in the collection. Moving to 1972, and we have Surtees. This is a TS9B. This is Adam D'Adamic. I think that's how you pronounce it. I could have got that horribly wrong, so I do apologise. Surtees, obviously hugely successful on two wheels and then in Formula One racing with Ferrari. He would go on to found his own team. They would run various different cars in the late 60s. I think they ran a McLaren in Formula One. They had a Lola T70 Spider that they raced. But he eventually started constructing his own cars in Formula 2, Formula 1, and Formula 5000. Formula One, they don't have any hugely notable successes, unfortunately. They did win in Formula 5000, they were successful in Formula 2. Formula 1, a lot of the cars would feature the livery that we've got here, but in alternate colour schemes. So this is the red and white, which is the traditional Surtees colours. The other cars, for example, the Matchbox cars are blue and yellow. The Bond Oxborough cars are dark blue and white, with the arrow being white. Matchbox, it's blue. Is it blue? No, they're not. They are yellow with a blue arrow, I think. Again, I could have got that very wrong off memory. But yeah, really nice model. Really happy to have it in the collection. Again, this one has quite a simplistic looking Cosworth DFV in the back in comparison to some of the earlier Panini cars, especially when you then compare it to what we saw in the Quartzo. This is what I mean. This is where the magazine models maybe do show their weakness against an older, higher quality brand, you could say, or a model that was produced at a higher price point originally, like the Quartzos. Obviously, if you then compared these to a Spark, there'd be even more differences. But yeah, really cool to have a 1972 Surtees TS9B. Next, 1975, another car that doesn't have a huge amount of success. I think there's a theme with these cars. Apart from the Matra, these are all pretty unsuccessful cars. This is the Williams FW03. I've already forgotten which driver this car represents, so I do apologise. I'll tag it in the comments below. Although a lot of the Williams cars, they were sort of hired out. There was the team's main car. And again, I'm struggling to remember who was the main driver for the 1975. But then they would have second cars, which people would pay to race. This is the first car that had the Williams name. The cars previous to this were either ISO Marlboros, there was the Polytoys. They were always named after their sponsors, but this was the first one that was called a Williams. And we obviously know the success that Williams would go on to. It's a high airbox car, hence the really high air scoop. Cosworth DFV powered. Again, you can see this is quite a simplistic rendition of the Cosworth DFV. But it works, it does the job. The wing mirrors are really quite high on this car. I don't know if you can see that. They're also slightly lopsided, but not hugely. The suspension's nicely done and modelled, so can't really complain about that. But yeah, really cool car, an important milestone for the Williams F1 team. Last car we're going to have a look at is the Alfa Romeo Brabham. This is a BT45 from 1976. Quite an odd looking car, but we can see we've still got the side mounted in the front coolers, I think, or radiators, I believe. But more interestingly, because this had the Alfa Romeo Flat 12, the cooling is sort of these huge side pods, which are a really strange looking design, unique to this car. They would eventually remove them and have them going in through the sides later in the season, and then in future cars, obviously they look even more different because they've started to adopt the fan car and ground effects, things like that. But yeah, really cool car. This is, again, I think this is Carlos Reutemann. You've got the Argentinian flag there. But a really nice model. Really happy to have this one in the collection. It was a car I wasn't actually aware that the Panini collection had. It came up on Facebook. So, sorry, yeah, these three, Panini and the Brabham, all came off Facebook at £10 each with postage. So that does mean it's slightly above our £10 target. But again, like I like to highlight to people, if you browse Facebook, you may find somebody local to you who's got a load of these cars that they're wanting to get rid of. It's a great way of buying cars on a budget. But yeah, a really cool car to have to the collection. Really interesting design. It's a Gordon Murray design. But the Alfa Romeo engine was terribly unreliable. They didn't really get any good results. I think most of the team were very disappointed in what happened, which was a shame. But obviously Brabham would go on to have success again later on in the 1970s, but not with the Alfa Romeo engine. Let me know what you think of the latest additions to the collection. Hopefully I'll catch you for another video soon, and enjoy your collecting. Bye.